And just want to put a few things straight for the public out there when they're listening to that last speech. The New Zealand economy grew by more than 3.8% in the year to March. That's the third highest among the world's most developed countries, and growth is forecast to reach 4% next year. This is a far cry from what we inherited in 2008. It's a far cry from what you would get under a Labour Greens New Zealand First government, and it's a far cry from what the Australians see happening in their country at the moment. There's just a couple of policies that I think we should also talk about that have been mentioned by the speakers today. And that last speaker touched on it, and that is one policy that has come through in the Green and New Zealand First and Labour, and that is the attack on the productive sector of New Zealand. They do not want New Zealand farmers to deliver the products that the world wants on the world stage. They do not want New Zealand to be a strong agricultural producer going forward. They do not want that to happen. And they are going to bring in a series of policies to achieve that purpose. The first of them is their carbon pricing. This is not a carbon tax. Everybody out there would expect some kind of carbon tax to raise money and to spend that money then on environmental initiatives. This does not do that. All that is proposed under that green policy, which would be favoured by Labour and the New Zealand First Party, would be to tax the productive sector of New Zealand. The farming sector of New Zealand would have to pay more taxes so that they can redistribute that as tax cuts for New Zealanders. And that is all it is. It has got nothing about achieving any environmental purpose. It is pure politics. It is a transfer of income from the productive sector to the sectors that are in the rest of the New Zealand economy. And that is what the Labour Party, the Greens Party and the New Zealand First Party will stand for at this next election. Yeah, so they're either joining them or they're not, and that's the question. The Greens have put the question to you, are you going to join them or not? And they don't answer, do they? Because they know they are. And that is what New Zealanders have to be aware of. So that will mean that the productive sector of New Zealand, the agricultural sector that has been delivering great economic returns for New Zealand in the past few years, will be hamstrung by carbon pricing, and that will reduce their competitiveness, which will reduce the competitiveness of the New Zealand economy in total. The next policy they want to do is around a capital gains tax. Again, another policy does not achieve its purpose, a policy that attacks the productive sector of New Zealand. The one part of the New Zealand economy that will be paying for a capital gains tax is New Zealand businesses and farms that generate the income for this country going forward. It won't affect. What's wrong with that? That's what Rajan Prasad said. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with attacking the productive sector of New Zealand economy? That's exactly what the Labour Party thinks, because they don't believe there's any problem in attacking the productive sector of New Zealand. They believe that that's a cash cow there that you can hit till the cows come home, isn't it, Mr Prasad? You can go after them all day and night, and it's not going to make any difference to the New Zealand economy. That is the fundamental misunderstanding that the opposition has. They do not understand where the bread is buttered in New Zealand and where the money comes from to pay for our schools, to pay for our roads, to pay for our hospitals, and that money has to be earned overseas. And New Zealand is a great agricultural producing country, and to attack that productive sector through a capital gains tax and a carbon price will hurt that sector. And you will see, as Mr Goldsmith said earlier, those increases in taxes actually lead not to what Mr Prasad and others are saying will happen. They will actually lead to capital being moved out of New Zealand, less capital investment in our productive sector, and therefore less revenue for our country as a whole, and therefore less economic growth for our economy. The third area which I think New Zealanders need to be aware of is the anti-immigration stance that will be taken by those three opposition parties. They do not believe in having a free and open New Zealand where we make the most of the opportunities we have in the modern world. They believe in an isolated island that can put up barriers, and it is not good enough to have anybody else coming in. The people that are here now is the limit of what. That is what the New Zealand First Party has always stood for. That is what the New Zealand First Party has always stood for and will always stand for, because they are against immigration, they are against an open and free New Zealand, and it is a disgraceful day for the Labour Party to agree to that, and they are so silent over there now because they know that in their heart of hearts they don't agree with either. You're not bored, you're listening, mate, and you'll be listening to the end of the election campaign as well. When we look going forward at New Zealand has an economy that's growing. This is something that we did not inherit when we came in. When we came in the last 5 years of the Labour government, there was a 50% increase in government expenditure. We have got that under control. Mortgage rates for those homeowners whom the Labour Party were talking about we're at 10.9% under Labour. Under National, they're at about 6%. Food prices were up about 10.9% in the last year of the Labour government, 1.5% under this government here today. House prices went up 96% over the 9 years of Labour government, and they've only gone up 28% under this government. Electricity prices went up 72% under Labour, only 20% under this government. The current account deficit, the thing the Greens always talk about, was 7.9% under Labour, and it's only 3.4% under this government. And many New Zealanders left and went to Australia at that time because they understood what the Labour government would mean to them and to this economy going forward. The debt that New Zealand has accumulated has been to rebuild Christchurch, a city I thought you would have been most comfortable to see rebuilt, and to keep this country afloat in the most difficult of economic times. So the New Zealand First Party obviously doesn't want to rebuild Christchurch. But I have got news for all transport lovers in New Zealand. When you see the New Zealand First transport policy, you will be amazed. They want to have passenger trains going from Wellington to Wanganui. Every other city in New Zealand will be serviced by a passenger train network. And Trevor Mallett is smiling and nodding and saying that's great as well. So it's good to see the Labour Party is supporting that as well as New Zealand First Party. That is the kind of rhetoric that those parties will engage in the next 3 months. They will be reckless with their promises. They will not have costed out their promises at all, and they will make a lot of promises to New Zealanders that will not be able to be held up. Mr. Speaker, this is an economy that is doing well. This is a country that is doing well. It has got good, strong leadership, prudent economic management, and a willingness and desire to make its way in the modern world. We need to celebrate our successes in our agriculture and other trading industries that provide a lot of the mainstay of the income that is generated in this country. We do not need to attack them and see them as some kind of cash cow that will enable the opposition parties to deliver their election promises. We should be looking forward for a country that grows, makes the most of its opportunities, and not one that looks back, trying to hijack and take advantage of the hard work of New Zealanders that has gone on before. This is an important election for New Zealanders, Mr. Speaker, because they have that choice. And at that election, they will choose a progressive country that looks forward, that takes advantage of our opportunities as a food producer, that openly embraces immigration, that does not say no to people coming into this country, or one that looks backwards, tries to redistribute money, tries to move the deck chairs around and to try and achieve their election promises. That's the choice New Zealanders will have, and it's a choice which New Zealanders will make, hopefully, the right decision on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I do believe that New Zealanders will make a positive